What's going on, guys? We're here with the man, Marcus, the Maniac McGhee. How are you, brother? Thank you for joining us.
Doing great as always, man. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So let's just jump right into things.
Man, so I gotta ask, I know it was a battle for you with Jan, and just curious, man, how was that for you? Did you take anything from it? Is there anything that may have surprised you going into that fight with Jan?
But it was good, a lot to learn, a lot of experience going in there against a former champion like Jan. So I took a lot of different things away from the fight, things that I can work on, things that I did well. So overall, it was a great experience.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I think it was definitely an interesting fight, but what would you say going into it, the fight camp leading up to it and everything like that was the toughest part for camp? Because obviously Jan is known as one of the, best boxers in the bantamweight division. Was there anything different for you in this camp, or what was the most difficult part leading into it?
Camps are always tough, just making it through camp period and trying to stay healthy. But camp was great. I had great training partners, Jack Anglin, Abdul Kamara, Chance Ikee, Vinny Diaz, a lot of great guys that can mimic that style. And that gave me a lot of great work. So, I really felt like when I stepped in there, I was prepared. Even throughout the whole fight, I felt like the camp was really well thought out and well planned out, and then it's just the fight. So, nothing changed too drastically for this fight. We just looked at our opponent, looked at the options that we had, and then just attacked it as such.
It was interesting too because you looked pretty comfortable in there for a guy that's, I mean, top three, top five in the division. You were throwing with him, you were putting up a fight. It was definitely impressive considering how much you were fighting up. You know what I mean? That's notable too.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, for me, I felt comfortable. Even looking across him in the cage. And even once we got started and started exchanging, I felt like this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I love to do. So, obviously there's adjustments that needed to be made, and I got to learn about those on the fly. So, that's always one of the best ways to do it. So, but other than that, yeah, everything felt like it was supposed to feel. Stepping across the cage from a legend like Petr Yan, I felt confident, I felt comfortable, and I felt like there was no place I wanted to be other than that.
Absolutely.
Having fought just a couple weeks ago, can we expect any fight news out of you? I mean, how are you feeling after this fight?
Yeah, I feel great. Everything's functioning correctly. So just healing up the cut over the eye, basically. So once I get the clear on that, I'm pretty much good to go. So I'd definitely like to get one more in before the end of the year, and then have an active 2026 too. So yeah, God willing, I get to get in there by November and October, end of October, and kind of see what the map looks like. But yeah, I'm trying to definitely get another one in before the end of the year.
Awesome, bro. That's what we like to hear, man. Gotta ask, any names, any one you have in mind that you'd love to fight?
Anybody above me, I feel like me and Eamon Zahabi were already matched up, so that fight needs to happen for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that should be one of the fights to happen. But also, Vinicius Oliveira is right there as well.
That would be a fun
Uh,
fight.
Ralph Fon is right there as well. So I'm really not against any of these guys. I'd like to fight somebody who's around me or above me still. Even jumping up and taking on Jan, that was one of the only names that got offered. So I'd still like to fight above me if possible. So yeah, any of those guys would be right up my alley.
I feel like it's interesting too, because a lot of guys that you see sometimes I feel like UFC is very wishy-washy, right? Some guys they kind of just hunt for the decision, you being one of those guys that you're consistently finishing people. I mean, I think when I looked at your fights, you have two decisions in your professional career, Jan being one of them. So I feel like the UFC has to feed you someone that's above you in ranking so you can get closer, to that top five.
Yeah, and that's what I would think. I think that makes sense, especially after the performance against Jan Still and taking that risk as well, flying all the way over to Abu Dhabi, fighting at 1 o'clock in the morning. Being professional through all that, making weight, doing all the things that I'm supposed to do correctly. I definitely think that should be the play. But we'll see what they want to do and how they want to move. I would assume that that's the plan moving forward. But yeah, we'll definitely see what they want to do.
What is that like fighting at, the difference between, say, fighting in Vegas or Abu Dhabi? Obviously you're talking about a big time difference. What's it like, being prepared mentally and physically at 1 o'clock?
I think that a lot of that has to do with preparation, and that's one thing I was happy about how we handled preparing for that, doing the right things, getting out there a little earlier, making sure that we switch our time and schedule up, making sure we're training right around the time that we're going to be fighting, so staying up throughout the week and preparing ourselves for that. So yeah, I feel like I think the preparation is the biggest part in those type of things, and getting ahead of it as well. So I think we did a really good job of doing that. So stepping in there at that time, honestly, I felt like all cylinders were firing.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. And we recently interviewed Chris Mutino and I asked him this question, but I want to ask you too. So when it comes to fight week, obviously Abu Dhabi is a different story because it's across the globe. But when you're flying in for a fight, how soon do you try to get there? Because I've noticed guys like Khalil Roundtree, when he was fighting in Baku, he got there 2 weeks early. Chris said sometimes he even gets there the Tuesday or Wednesday before the fight. But how long do you usually fly in before you guys fight?
So it really depends where it is, but Tuesday is usually the start of fight week. So we're almost always flying in that Tuesday. And again, I think that it really when you come in earlier, I think it really depends on, the climate, really depends on the elevation, really depends on whether or not you're going to have to acclimate to different environments, essentially. So I think as long as it's not too big of a change or time change, that Tuesday before the fight is always just fine. But if it's a big time change, I think at least, 8 days sooner would be optimal. At least, you want to get that 3 days to acclimate to your new area. But I mean, I can understand people doing 2 weeks. I would like to do 2 weeks, but financially, man, these guys, I don't know how
Yeah,
they're
that's
doing
true
that.
too. Yeah, you got to think because it's, yeah, I didn't even consider that because when Chris told me Tuesday, I was like, man, Tuesday seems pretty soon. But the more I'm seeing it now, you're saying Tuesday too, it makes sense because, flying across the globe, bringing your team, bringing your family, whoever's going with you, staying for 2 weeks just isn't always optimal. But shifting gears a little bit outside of the octagon, obviously all over your Instagram, you're active, right? You're playing basketball, you're skateboarding. But skateboarding is a big thing that I see on your Instagram a lot. You love to skateboard. What came first? Was it the MMA or was it the skateboarding? Did the two correlate like at all with training?
Nah, skateboard definitely came first. I have to say, mixed martial arts came first before skateboarding because even though I didn't have a formal teacher or didn't have money to get into schools and everything like that, I was always into martial arts since I was like 5 years old, and I've always trained like on my own, learn things from movies, and then go into the backyard and work on those things, and always getting in scraps and working on different techniques that I learned in those scraps. So I think martial arts came first, but then I would say MMA was like my first, or skateboarding was like my first love. That's what I wanted to go pro in. I always saw myself being a pro skateboarder. That's what I thought for the longest time. I didn't actually get into MMA until I was 22 years old, 21, 22 years old. And then the story continued from there. But yeah, skateboarding came first.
Awesome. So on this day, today, Marcus McGhee, if money was not on the table, there's no option, you could either skateboard or be a professional fighter. Are you still choosing fighting or are you going to go to skateboarding full time?
Oh, I'm still choosing fighting.
Yeah.
I love skateboarding, and I would love to do more in the skateboard world, but fighting has turned me into the man that I am. It's transformed me in so many different ways, and skateboarding did too. But fighting and really training and pursuing this mixed martial arts lifestyle has definitely humbled and sharpened me as a man, and I definitely wouldn't trade it for anything else.
Yeah, I have to say it's awesome watching you grow. And it's awesome watching a lot of fighters grow, but it's especially fun watching you grow because you're a fighter that you post a lot about, you personally and your family scrolling through your Instagram, you see a lot. So I love seeing over the years, all the different fight announcements, all the wins, all the finishes and everything. It's just awesome to see, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yes,
It's
sir.
awesome to be able to live this life and get a chance to have opportunities like this regularly. So I'm blessed and thankful, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I gotta ask, man. I mean, you travel obviously all over the world, fighting and everything. Has there been a favorite city of yours that you'd love to, obviously I'm sure you don't get too much time to go around and try everything out, but has there definitely been a certain place that stuck out to you and that you really enjoyed being at?
Yeah, I always like Vegas. I really always enjoy
Yeah.
Vegas for some reason. I just feel like it's the fight vibe. But New York was cool too. New York was cool. There's a lot of cool different things out there, like Central Park and a couple different things. I mean, I like to get out there and see new things. So that was pretty cool. I had been to Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi was cool as well, but yeah, I definitely think like my favorite travel destination is probably Vegas.
Yeah, yeah, we actually were just there as well for International Fight Week, so it's a great time, man. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah, 100%. I think that they just bring that energy and they're just so used to that vibe in the city, and there's always so much going on too. And it's a hop and a skip for me too. I'm in Arizona, so
Okay.
honestly, I'm like, oh, it's easy for me to hop on a 45-minute plane, be in Vegas. I don't have to do any of the whoop de whoop. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
sign me up.
Well, man, I mean, you've became a big fan favorite. I mean, a lot of people love to watch you fight, man. You bring it every single night. We would love to see you at International Fight Week next year, man. I'm sure you'd have a big line there waiting for you.
Yeah, man, that'd be cool too. Again, get one more in before the end of the year, then possibly get one in before International Fight Week, and then be out there as well.
Yeah.
Get back into that win column. Obviously, is the plan. But yeah, I would love that too, man. Honestly, I've always wanted to be a part of one of those, and I guess because I'm not as loud and I'm not as I mean, I just do what I do. I'm not out here doing too much extra. I just do what I do, and those who want to jump on it are with it, and those who don't. And so it's hard to get clickbait from me. So I think that that's why they don't really push me the same way, which is
Yeah.
understandable. You know what I'm saying? Like again, the way I live it speaks volumes to who I am, and obviously that brand doesn't always align with other brands as well. So it'd be cool to be out there though. Possibly bring my skateboard, do some
There you go.
SLS stuff. That'd be dope.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. But like we were talking about before, obviously only two of your fights going to decision. Very exciting fighter. I mean, you're hunting for the finish every time. Where do you think that comes from? Because, like I said, it's so easy nowadays. You have guys that are just backpacking you, or they're just waiting for a safe decision win. Where do you think it comes from that you fight so, I guess you could say explosive? Like you see, you're fearless in the cage.
Yeah, I think being free in there, and not limiting ourselves to other people's expectations of us or a game plan and all those things. It's great to game plan. It's great to have different options to go to, but this is a fight. It's a fight, and I think that when I step in there with that mentality, to just keep on chipping away. I feel like that's when the finishes come. I feel like some of us get to that thought process of staying safe or looking perfect and doing everything right, and it's like there's never a such thing as that. If you just go out there and work, chances are you're gonna do a lot of things right and find different shots that you wouldn't have found if you weren't letting yourself be free. So I think that plays a big part into my style and to who I am too. And I just think I need to rely on that a lot of times. We do a lot of work on technical stuff. We do a lot of work on planning and checking guys out and understanding what their game plans is. But come fight night, we got to go out there and we got to fight, and that will create opportunities to get the finish.
I think I could speak for everyone when I say the UFC needs to keep giving you higher ranked opponents because every time, I mean, granted, like I said, Petr Yan is a big test, but for a guy as explosive and as dominant as you've been, like I said, hunting for the finish, I feel like they have to keep giving you those ranked guys, those higher ranked guys specifically, because you're just entering that upper echelon of really, title contention. I mean, obviously a few fights away, but that upper echelon of, the top five ranking.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what I'm looking forward to. It's crazy to think I've only had 5 fights in the UFC, so I'd like to do the work. You know what I'm saying? Get somebody closer to my ranking. Get another W, jump back up again, get into that top 10, jump back up again, get into that top 5. And then be ready to be fighting for a championship possibly, and then getting paid correctly to do so. You know what I'm saying? Because I think God's got amazing plans, and His plans always prosper us, and I think that I think he's working. It's crazy because people be like, "Oh, what if you lose? Are you still gonna praise him?" And it's like, yeah, absolutely. His plans are better than my plans, and I do think that this was meant to grow me and will grow me. And I look forward to stepping in there with the next guy and then continuing to chop away and get back to that path. So I think that things are working, and I'm looking forward to it.
Amen. Love it, brother.
Speaking of growing, as you were saying, taking your UFC debut on short notice, what was that pressure like? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Man, I wish I could say I had pressure, but it was it was only like maybe a moment of pressure, and then the rest of it was just like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna go out there and like I had been training, I was ready. It was crazy to make the weight cut that fast,
Right.
to be a Wednesday afternoon getting called that you have to make weight. Friday afternoon. You know, that very rarely happens. So that was probably like the craziest part. Like, dang, I don't know if I'm gonna get there. I think I'm gonna get there, but 2 days, who knows? Uh, but it was just exciting. It was just exciting for me. I use gratitude a lot. I was just grateful for the opportunity. You don't get many opportunities like that in life, and then to jump on those opportunities. We all be scared and
Yeah.
afraid to take a leap of faith. And I said it in the post speech. Walk by faith, not by sight. And that's how I kind of felt about it. Like I was like, man, why not me? Why not
Yeah.
me? Why not him give me this goal and this opportunity to do this? Why not me walk through it? So I was very, very present in all of it and just grateful through all of it. I really never had a moment of where I was like overly stressed. Weight cut went good. We had to do a lot of different things too. Like I had to get blood work, I had to get eye exam, I had to do all these things
That's a
within that
lot
amount of
different.
time.
That's a lot different from the LFA.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just to step up, because honestly, I had fought in the LFA, but they needed me to get extra medicals done.
Okay.
So basically, like they hit me up Wednesday and like, all right, we're gonna have you on an airplane for Thursday morning. I show up Thursday morning. I do all my medicals up to 4 o'clock. Basically, we get back to the hotel. I have like maybe an hour, and then we start our weight cut. So
Crazy,
literally
man.
flew in, did all of our medicals, did our weight cut, weighed in Friday morning. Hey,
You have guys that are fighting in 2, 3, 4 months camps that don't make weight. You made weight in 2.5 days. And this is another interesting question. When you fly in, obviously Tuesday, Wednesday, in this case Thursday, the water retention from the plane, is that something that you and your nutritionist or like you guys evaluate? Is that something that you factor into the weight cut?
yeah, absolutely. And it really depends on how long we're going to be up there, right? I didn't have to worry about the water retention as much for that one because of the fact that it was only a 45-minute flight, right? But when we went to New York, it's a 4.5-hour flight, so water retention was very important there. And then for Abu Dhabi, I was on a plane for almost 20 hours, so I did 4.5 hours to New York, New Jersey, and then I went another 14.5 hours to Abu Dhabi. So like or to Dubai. So when we do things like that, then we have to really take into accountability. So I fasted the whole flight to from basically from the morning I took off to New York all the way to landing in Dubai. I just fasted and I wore compressions on just to make sure we're everything's fluctuating. And I was still water loading throughout that whole time, so I was making sure I was getting my water and electrolytes in still. But that helped out immensely because by the time I landed, I had already lost a little bit of extra weight. I didn't hold anything because I didn't have any of the extra fecal matter in there. So we are already kind of ahead on that. It would have kind of sucked if I would have showed up and still been overweight. So I had to do extra work to get the weight off so that was we always take that into account.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to your debut, so making weight on 2 days' notice isn't easy, especially, I mean, granted, it was a 45-minute flight. If you don't mind me asking, what's your walk around weight? Because making weight that quickly can't be easy.
Yeah, so I try to keep, especially in that time, I was making sure I was staying ready. I was making sure I was keeping my weight because I can walk around above 170 pounds, no problem, with abs. Like in good shape, I can still be above 170. But I try to keep my weight right around 160.
Okay.
And that's where I try to hover around right around 160. And if I'm looking to take short notice fights, I know I have to be under 155, like 153, 152. So it really depends on how disciplined I'm being and where I'm at. Like going into the next couple months here, I'm gonna drop down significantly. I've been able to enjoy myself the last couple weeks, and that's great. But then it's time to get that weight off and make sure that we stay within striking range. And I think that's where people have their problem at. They'll get big and they'll stay big for so long,
Yeah.
and or they'll get big and they won't be a healthy big. They're not training during that time. They're not really, it becomes more fat and it becomes more visceral, opposed to these guys getting ahead of it. So that's my biggest thing. I start my weight cuts before I even get in camp.
Okay. Hmm.
That's smart. That's smart. I gotta ask you, Marcus, what's your favorite thing about fighting? Like, is it just, the thrill of competing against, one on one? It's obviously it takes a team to, get prepped and get ready and everything, but when that cage closes, man, it's 1v1, it's you versus them. I mean, what kind of a mindset obviously you take in there, and what's giving you this thrill, this love to follow MMA?
Yeah, if it's the fight, if I have to say the fight part in particular, it is the presence, right? It's very hard to not be very present in those big moments, you know? And I feel like that for me is very important, and I take that with me into so many other facets of my life. To do it on a big stage like that, in front of so many people who are judging you, who are some good people, some people that don't know, some people that might know. Uh and then still having to go out there yourself and perform and show that you can be there, and then keep your composure and all those different type of things. I feel like those have added so much into my regular life. The way I handle those moments show me that I can handle those moments in so many other things as well. So for me, I really appreciate the presence that fighting gives me. You can't really be too like, ever someone's like, oh, I think about this, I think about this. Really, you got to be just thinking about being there. You can't
Yeah.
be too deep in thought. You have to just be there, and everything else should be just muscle memory almost. So I like the presence part of it.
Absolutely, man. And it's interesting too because there's so many people that they're like, I just like beating people up. But I joke about it, but it's cool though that you talk about the presence and obviously being there and being through the journey and then obviously through the ups and the downs and everything because this fight must have been, you must have been pumped to go into it, but it must have been kind of weird, right? Because this is a big step up in your career, obviously fighting a guy up. So I wouldn't take it necessarily as a loss, right? And like you said, being present, of course, on paper it's a loss, but you probably learned a lot of things like we talked about earlier. Obviously, this is another big step up. I'm hoping the UFC gives you another person in the top five because man, obviously you deserve it. I talk to people online all the time. They agree. You're definitely taking that next step in your career, and your performances are showing that too.
Well, I appreciate it, and that's how I thought about it. And we have a chance to learn, or we have a chance to dwell on losses, right? And man, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself competing against a guy like that. I learned a lot about the presence and feeling. A lot of people get done with those fights and like, oh, I don't remember it all. I remember everything. I remember every part of it, every feeling, every emotion, and I can take that with me as I move forward. So, I plan to utilize that in my training, and then come back and prove a lot of people that are betting for me
Yeah.
right, and then prove all the haters wrong. So
Man,
that's the plan.
I'll be honest, I personally would love to see that fight again. I think it's gonna be in your favor a couple years down the road, maybe a year down the road. I really do, man. I think you'll see that his trips are coming, going forward. He loves to use
Yes,
those
trip.
trips, man. He's a phenomenal fighter, man. And you taking that fight, I think showed a lot about you. I really don't think you have haters, man. I really don't. I've seen nothing but, great things, especially with that fight. I think a lot of people were impressed, it being your fifth fight in the UFC, you taking on a challenger like that, man. I think there's nothing but great things ahead for you.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And honestly, I don't haven't had too much negativity. It's just the negativity here and there. So, and even then, I pray for those guys. Honestly,
Yeah.
you never know what people are going through. So, yeah, man. I agree. I think that get back to the drawing board, make the adjustments that we need to make, and I definitely think that there's so many different levels to meet, and that feels good. It feels good to be finishing fights and being like, man, I have levels to get. Like, like
Yeah.
I can get better. I can be better. Like that's a great feeling. So
And
I'm look
he's a top tier fighter, man. You know that. And the fact that you went 3 rounds with him, I and you're a finisher like we were talking about, man. I definitely see that going your way coming forward.
well, I appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to making that happen. So get these
Yes, sir.
wins, and then yeah, maybe we line ourselves up again and do it again.
Absolutely, brother. Well, listen, I mean, I hope we didn't take up too much of your time. I appreciate you taking the time. Both of us, I think it was great speaking with you. We learned a lot about you. Can't wait for your next fight announcements. Obviously, we hope you rest up. Everything's good. Can't wait to see you in the octagon again, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it, brother.
No, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
absolutely, man. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. See you guys
Have a great
later.
one, brother. God bless.
God bless.